Welcome to Cross Platform Podcast, where we discuss how to solve productivity problems across platforms. I'm Augusto Pinaud,
Art Gelwicks.
and today we are going to be talking about Samsung Unpacked, event that
Yep.
happened on August the 10th, 2022.
Yep. Happened this morning. They did their big fall product release and announcements. We got to see the no surprises because everything is leaked in advance anymore. So it's not a matter of something coming out of the woodwork, but it's nice to be able to see one again how they present, how they package it, and also what the products are and what their overall strategy is. I like focusing on Samsung because they do lead the pack when it comes to um, Android devices, and they set the tone. I mean, Google's Android, but they really don't set the tone when it comes to hardware and it comes to that kind of innovation. I mean, they come up with some neat stuff, but not at the level of what a company the size of Samsung does.
You know,
So,
and I've been saying this, I have said this before, and I will insist into this because it's something in which I praise Samsung. Okay. Apple has always been mark of, oh, well, we do the fancy events and we do the fancy presentations and all this. And on the other side, on the Android side, it's like, well, we don't need that because we have these other things. Great. And that is the posture in a certain way that Google has. I'm Google. Okay. So here it is. I'm Microsoft. Here it
mhm.
is. But Samsung instead has been pulling from that Apple playbook, and not only in fancy presentations and all this, but also they have done what they did very well, that is the technology and the integration on that technology, and then present it in a very fancy way.
Mm.
If you really cross the Galaxy or the Samsung logos, and you just watch without audio, there is a lot of high end presentation,
Yes.
and I really appreciate that Samsung it's trying to position, if not they are positioned already, to be that equivalent to the Apple world in the Android world or the Windows world. If you want to buy high end, Samsung is your answer, not any other of the competitions.
Samsung has an interesting approach to this because they have really, and we've talked about this in other shows, they've really
Hmm.
taken firm hold of the entire ecosystem mindset
Hmm.
and the connectivity of hooking their applications together and what they're going to be able to do with them. This is the type of thing where I think they excel at. I mean, they're able to provide products at a lower price point as well. But in the higher end ecosystem play, yeah, I'd say they're 1A with what Apple provides within their ecosystem. And right
Agree.
now, I would say specifically with the types of devices that Samsung released today as part of Unpacked, they may be the one instead of the 1A. I mean, we're talking about devices that Apple doesn't offer. They don't have this
Mhm.
capability or functionality. They may
Right.
eventually in the future. I'm sure they'll come out at some point and say they invented it, but it's but it's more a standpoint that Samsung's really leveraging their hardware and their product development expertise to play in an area that a couple years ago, and it's hard to believe that the foldable market is almost 10 years old. It took Samsung about 8 years to bring the first uh, Flip to market, and
Hmm.
since then they're already up to the Z Flip floor or the Z Flip 4, which was really hard to say quickly. Uh, but that type of a product has really caught the attention of a lot of people, and it's been very influential in, of all things, the influencer community.
As an Apple user, okay, I have an iPad mini exactly for that because I like the larger form factor. If Apple
Mhm.
will come with a concept like that C Fold, I will get it right away because it allowed me to get rid of two devices in preference of one, and I think it is very, very powerful.
So, not to jump ahead of things, but let me ask a base question. The iPad mini, what's the size of that screen?
The new one is 8 inches diagonal.
Okay. Just to kind of bury the lead on this, the Z Fold 4 has a 7.6
Mhm.
inch screen inside.
Correct.
So it's playing in that same space, but it's something that you can fold in half put in your pocket. So
But that
again,
is
it's
that is where the me. I upgraded my
mhm,
phone recently. Okay, and I have now a very large phone. Okay, that
mhm,
is not much larger than what the C Fold is folded, except that I cannot open it to get. If I
right.
could get this phone to be open and now have basically 99%, 95% of what my iPad mini, that will be a very powerful tool for me.
So let's start talking through some because they released several different items, and I want to give them the credit that's due. I don't want to dig through the specs because anybody can go look up the specs, but some
Yeah,
key
I agree.
things that I noticed during the presentation. The first product out the gate was the Z Flip 4,
Hmm.
which, as we've seen since it came out in 3, is very much focused on influencers. It's a
Yeah.
fashion level device. It's a device to be seen as much as it is to be used.
Hmm.
What I found intriguing, aside from the fact that it has aluminum frame and the water resistance and things like that, is one of the ways they used it a lot during the presentation. Now, because the fold or the flip folds in half in the middle, they had several instances where they were actually holding it the same way you would hold a camcorder, in that L configuration with part of it in your hand to steady, so you could shoot video or shoot
Hmm.
photos that way. I thought that was an intriguing use case for holding the device to take advantage of that bent form factor as a way to stabilize and focus more on video. They also really leaned into using that bent form factor to put the phone on a table and take video with you in it, or take photos with you in it, or to take advantage of, instead of using the low quality or lower quality front facing camera, to be able to use the rear camera to take things like selfies and that and whatnot, because you have a covered display. You actually have two displays on the device. So
Hmm.
being able to see them start to pull these use cases out was a bit fascinating to me, because those are specific use cases for the audiences they're going after. They're not just, hey, you could do this cool thing with this. It's this audience of doing content creation and production, and they leaned into it. They had one of the seniors from Instagram in the presentation talking about how it works with Meta and how they've tuned the software. It's really that type of a device that lends itself to the things that this audience wants to do. So I think they're really
And
doubling
again,
down on
and again, as
the
I
people
as I
who want
we have
this.
said before, and again, as we have said before, they are doing this very well. If you look, if you compare with Apple all presentations, they don't tend to release the program. Anybody can use. No, 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 no. It's a very
Mhm.
specific use, very specific that they market and push. And and I agree. I will not want that device. That device is not the kind of device that I'm looking for. But as you see this, then you could understand how and who very clear is the target market for this. And
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. The device doesn't tick the boxes that I have. That said, I can absolutely see the audience that it's meant for, that they will like it. They're offering it in their bespoke edition again, so it's completely. I think they said like 70 some odd different configurations of color combinations that you can make this device your own. Um,
mhm,
yeah, they've recognized that the Flip was extremely well received. It's been sturdy enough to survive. I know several
right.
people who have them. And the product is very well represented in Samsung's marketing efforts when it comes to things like media. If you look at anything like Korean dramas, you'll see Korean dramas. The flip is every place in there. The fold is every place in those. So the product placement is huge. They had their BTS song demo with the device, calling it out for the pop culture reference. So again, it's really tied to that audience, and I think it's a solid solution. There was nothing exceptionally innovative this time. This is an iterative version. It's not a revolutionary version. They've made it thinner, they've made it lighter, they've given it a little bit better battery life, they've given it a little better processor. It's a nice upgrade if you have one of the old ones. I don't necessarily know that it would be a necessary upgrade if you had, say, a Flip 3. I don't know that it moves the marker far enough for that.
But again, it's brilliant because
Absolutely.
they are now showing to their target market, who has been consistent between version 1, 2,
Mhm.
and 3, okay, that we are this kind of form factor is maturing with you. Okay, we don't need to go bell whistles, crazy things, because what we are doing is maturing the product for you.
One of the things that was interesting about 3 different times during the Flip 4's presentation, they talked about how closing the phone sends a message to the people around you that you are not using your phone anymore, you are engaged with them. That is your way of disconnecting from the digital space. And I thought that was it was intriguing to call that particular behavior out, because we talk a lot when we talk about cross platform structures and things like that about being engaged in what you're doing and connected to your surrounding environment. And that conscious behavioral click of closing the phone sets in motion around you, say, oh, okay, he's not on his phone anymore.
Right.
Then they quickly jump back and said, well, yeah, but if you really need to, you can check the little external display too. But that's a whole different part and parcel with it. And they've done some interesting things with that. For example, one of the things I thought was fascinating is they've tied in the Samsung wallet to the external display. So you don't have to open the phone to be able to flip through the wallet and pay for something. You can respond to text from the outside of the phone. So you don't have to open it up. And I think there's 2 reasons for that. One, it's a way to leverage that external screen, but to be a little bit more cynical and pragmatic, it also reduces the number of times that you're flexing the internal screen.
Mhm.
You don't have to open it to do everything. A lot of the little things that you can do from the outside means that you're not bending that screen that many more times. And
Correct.
in both devices that they showed, there's a definite reduction in that seam crease that starts to develop over time on the display. It's not disturbing. I've looked at a 3 that's been heavily used for a while, and it really doesn't take away from the experience, but this gets rid of that much more. So it's a fascinating approach. The other thing that I want to call is the fact that they did highlight that Google Meet is built into the phone. And multiple times Samsung called out their relationship with Google as part of this, which I thought, okay, they're leaning hard into this, which makes sense. I mean, when we talk about the watch, um, it's all about Wear OS. So I'm not surprised they're doing this, but it is nice to see that they're still leaning into that and not trying to run off in a different direction or have it be just a once and done type of thing. So the next thing they had were the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, which are the earbuds. Matter of fact, I'm wearing Galaxy Buds right now. Uh, they are the upgraded version. They provide all the normal things like active noise cancellation and things like that. What I thought was interesting with these are a couple things. One, for the technical among us, Bluetooth supports what's called a 16-bit data transfer for sound. Um, if you want high quality sound, you really need to go 24-bit. Bluetooth won't support that. So Samsung actually wrote their own codec to be able to supply 24-bit lossless. Well, some audiophile is going to yell at me for that, but 24-bit audio quality, which means you get things like 360-degree sound and things like that, which is really I think, a good thing. You pick up that extra sound quality without the limitations of what Bluetooth has. Uh, Second, though, is this is again another version of their active noise canceling that is smart enough to recognize when you talk. So when you start talking, it picks it up and says, "Oh, okay, I'm going to turn off the active noise canceling so you can hear yourself talk. You don't get that living in a tin can sound. And then when you're done talking, I'm going to turn it back on." That's
Right.
kind of a nice feature. I like that. I like that quite a bit. The other thing I thought was fascinating, Samsung has really pushed for quite some time with their buds that you can connect it to multiple devices. Well, one of the devices they called out this time is connecting it to a Samsung TV. So you can have it hooked to your phone and your TV at the same time. And if a call comes in, the buds will actually switch over automatically to the phone. And then you can switch back to the TV. I like the fact that they were adding the TV into the overall ecosystem. I have mine right now connected to my laptop and to my phone, but having an extra device, that's kind of nice being able to add that in. Um,
It is funny that you mentioned that as a highlight. That for me went in the list of things that I hope there is an option to deactivate because the Apple AirPods allows you to change, not connect to the TV, but the different machines.
mhm.
And what happened to me is that many times I'm in conference call, like we are today, and then the phone rings, and then that thing goes away. So I'm the one who deactivated from every device to manually changing from device to device because of that, because it feels very annoying to me. So when they announced that, I was like, oh yeah, that feature is not in my list.
Yeah, it's one of the things that it's nice when it works. I've had it not work and make a mess out of things, but when it works, it's not too shabby. It does a good job, and hopefully, with each iteration, again, they're improving it. But from they've changed the physical design a little bit. Supposedly, it'll fit better in the ear. I think that's a tilting at windmills type of thing that every earbud company tries to do, but everybody's ears are
Yeah.
different, so
The
I don't think
other
that's ever going to be successful.
the other change that was interesting was they're all white now outside. Before generations priors, they were on the same color that was assigned, and now they're all white, and it's the inside that changed the color. That was an
Yeah.
interesting marketing change for me.
There was one other feature that I forgot to make a note of. You have the ability with Samsung Smart Things to locate your earbuds if you've misplaced them. It'll find them in the case. Well, now with this version, not only will it find the case, it'll find the individual earbuds, which I think is interesting because if you misplace one earbud right now, you're kind of stuck. But with these, supposedly, you can find the individual earbuds using the locator service, which is kind of, again,
It,
it's an
it is very neat.
iterative improvement.
It is very neat. The my AirPods, the third generation, do it, and it happened to me once that I was in the car and I took them out, and instead of put it in the case, shame on me, you put it in the seat, and then I was in my office. Where is the thing? Where is the thing? I can find a put on my phone, and then it guided me exactly to the car where it was.
Yeah, it's a useful set of features. I mean, the case and the ear pod or earbuds are so small, it's very easy to misplace them. And just having that ability to locate them gives me a little bit more confidence in using them. Okay,
Yeah,
now comes, and I'm going to,
I lost the case of the AirPods, and I
mhm,
can tell you that the currently I have not removed it out of my case because it's marked as lost. I know I'm not going to recover it. Okay, currently it's in Peru. Okay, but then every once in a while I remember and opening the thing and makes play the sound for the person who stole it.
there you go. So they wonder what the heck is going on. Yeah, I like that. So now I'm going to change it up a little bit with what they presented because they next presented the Galaxy Watch 5.
Correct.
I'm like, oh, okay, this is good. I was waiting for that. I'm the proud owner of a Galaxy Watch 4, classic design, rotating bezel, whole 9 yards, running Wear OS. Love the device, wear it every day. Not again iterative, not groundbreaking improvements in the Watch 5. They've added a temperature sensor which is something they didn't have before. They have all the health things that they've talked about in the past. But it doesn't have a lot of new features. It has a bigger sensor pad on the back for better connection and all. But what it didn't have, they don't offer any of the watches that they showed with a rotating bezel anymore. Now, the rotating bezel has been always been kind of a unique aspect of the Samsung watches, especially the Pro or the classic versions, because it provides you an interface or an interaction mechanically with the with the UI. So if
Mhm.
I get an alarm, I can just spin the bezel and it silences the alarm. I don't have to try and touch and slide across or things like that. Now, for the Galaxy watches that don't have a rotating bezel, you can always slide your finger around the outside edge to create the effect of a bezel. But it's not the same. It definitely doesn't work as well. Uh, so the 5, they don't offer with a bezel. I'm like, okay, fine. Aside from that, looks like a good, straightforward offering. Again, reasonable upgrade. If you have an old one, good reason to upgrade. If you don't have one, good reason to buy one. If you've got a 4, you could probably wait till next year. Then they went right into the Z Fold 4, which I'll talk about in a minute. And immediately I'm like, wait a minute. That's it? That's it for the watch? They didn't provide anything else. So I was a little bit taken aback by it. After they did the whole Z Fold 4 presentation, then they presented the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, don't shuffle your stuff like that. All right, let's keep it together. Galaxy Watch 5 Pro is absolutely about activity and athletics and outdoors. Everything they talked about is all about that. Custom
Mhm.
faces just for activities. Um, Function called a trackback feature with if you go like hiking, for example, you can tell it to give you a route back to where you started. It has a larger battery in it. It's designed to be used for outdoor activities. But guess what it doesn't have? A rotating bezel, not even the Pro version. So, one of my favorite features has gone the way of the headphone jack. And I'm not a big fan of that. So, we'll see how long I keep my watch with my rotating bezel. Uh, the, the Watch 5 Pro, again, larger battery, it's got a steep price tag. I got to say, it's almost $460, I think was what they listed. So, it's not exactly a disposable kind of watch. It's targeted for the serious user.
Well, but I think, same thing that happened with the phones. Okay, and if we go back 2007 or so, okay, what happened with the first phones that came with a full screen, the iPhones and the Androids that came, without the keyboard and the full screen, those initial phones were a year phone. Okay, by the time the next one was released, you needed to upgrade because there was so much improvement, so much creativity, so much things happening in the software, in the useful, and what you could do or not do with them, that the technology was moving much faster than the adoption rate. So a
Right.
lot of people were upgrading every year because it was the only way to continue keeping up with as a device with what the device was capable of. With the watch, I think we are approaching that place where do you need a faster watch? The thing is fast enough.
Mm.
Now we need to let the watch to mature. And one of the things that maturity is happening is the people is going to keep it longer because the first watch,
Very possible.
okay, the battery didn't. So hey, give me 20% more battery. Great. Let me take it upgrade right now. But
Mhm.
now my battery is day and a half. Okay, day and three quarters is going to make a difference. Most likely not. Okay, do I really need a faster watch? Probably not. So your watch upgrade cycle, it's moving from 1 to almost 2 years, or maybe 2 years. That also make that the price point from their perspective, okay, you are
Mhm.
not going to spend on them now $300 a year. You are going to spend $300 every other year. So, from accounting purposes, you are now $150 per year customer.
Right.
So that allows me now to increase that price so I can reduce the gap a little bit.
What I think is going to make the biggest difference over time from a hardware perspective on the watches is the addition of new sensors, new abilities to interface with the outside world. Improvements in battery life have to come. I mean,
Yeah,
even mine, I have to charge basically every day if
every
I
day.
want it to really be worthwhile. I will not be surprised if somebody gets smart and finally releases one that has a solar cell in it that has a trickle charge into the device. Um, I would like to see them, which they haven't done, support regular wireless charging with the watch. It requires a special charging pad. So it would be nice to be able to put it on the same wireless pad that I put everything else on and let the watch charge. But that said, their bigger comment that I thought was more of a throwaway line in the presentation is the fact that they're working with Google to isolate sections of the Google Play Store to highlight applications specific to platform, to really call out Wear OS based applications, which is how this adoption really gets driven, to get more developers producing more applications that have a practical purpose on the watch. So I'll be curious to see how that continues to go. Like I said, I think this was an expected release, but I didn't see anything in those that really shook my world. It does set a precedent though, and it sets a bar for Google when they bring their Google Watch out, that they have to at least meet this bar.
Right.
And I don't know enough about the Google Watch from what I've seen so far, or rumors and all, to see if it comes close to this bar or not. It could be another one of those cases where Google almost shows up to the party, but not quite.
As they have done before already.
Oh yeah, they have a tendency to do that a lot. So finally, there's the Galaxy Z Fold 4. And this is really what the whole show's about uh, from a productivity standpoint. This is their productivity phone. It is designed to get work done. Uh, it's the same basic structure as what the 3 was, but it's thinner. The hinge is completely redesigned. They went on for quite a bit of time talking about how the hinge has a completely new mechanism to be able to make it smaller and lighter. They also changed how the touchscreen is reinforced. It was previously a metal panel. Now it's almost a carbon fiber style panel.
Mhm.
But the biggest thing that I noticed about this was the fact that they started to really stress how you could use it to do work. And they've talked about it in the past, but their integration with Microsoft Office, for example, and working side by side in Office and taking advantage of it in its different form factor positions. There's a bit of a video clip where a guy's sitting on the couch using it, and he's got it in that L configuration, or slightly expanded L configuration, where one half of the fold screen is being used as a full keyboard and the top half is used as a display.
Mhm.
They also called out many of the pieces about how the software on there is being modified to work well with that form factor. So, for example, Microsoft Teams has a variant that the video display of Teams goes on the top half and the presentation or other things can go on the bottom half. So it's really starting to leverage that dual screen configuration, which I think is really important. Multi screen applications, and also applications that are designed to leverage a tablet layout, are a big deal for this device because that's half of its selling point, if not more. They've customized the toolbar at the bottom so you can put links in there. One thing they didn't mention though, and I haven't looked at any of the product material to see if it's in there or not, there wasn't a single mention of Dex. So I assume Dex is still on the device, but if
Oh,
it
that is
is,
interesting.
they sure didn't call it out. So it makes me wonder, could this be foretelling the future end of Dex? Um, I don't know that Dex
Oh,
has
hopefully
ever
not,
truly.
because I think I love Dex so much. I understand I live on an Apple ecosystem, but it is something that I have always called. And actually, with finally iOS 16 or iPad OS 16, allowing you to connect new monitors. I really hope that Apple release that Apple Mini with the M2, because now that machine you can come connected, put it in front of a keyboard, and get multiple screens, or in this case, two right
Mhm.
now, out of that little form factor. But I think that will be very, very, very powerful.
Yeah, I've been doing some searching online and I still have not seen anything mentioned about it having DeX. So I'm curious to see if it's supported or not. And it may, honestly, it may not be. It may be one of those things that they move to leveraging Android 12L, which is focused more around tablet configuration, than they're actually using DeX. The other thing that they didn't stress for much of anything, they showed a couple clips, but they really didn't talk about it, was the S Pen. The S Pen, again, does not have a home in this device physically. Unlike the old notes where you had a hole in it to put the small S Pen, this is the larger S Pen with a better digitizer in it, but there's no place in the device to actually put the pen. So Samsung's releasing a case that has a slot for the pen, but it's this big lump on the back of the case. So it's not exactly designed to slip in your back pocket of your skinny jeans with that setup.
Mhm.
So they did leave out some things that I think are really, I don't know that they're necessarily telltale, but it may be one of the cases that Samsung just had too much it wanted to talk about on certain devices and it let other devices kind of languish a bit. I think they spent so much time talking about the flip that they really didn't talk about the fold's capabilities. And that may have been intentional. The fold audience is pretty well defined up front. They're productivity people. The flip, that's a different sell. And it kind of makes sense that it has to get more attention and more. It also has the larger market share of the two devices by
Right.
far. So, so will we see it with Dex? I don't know. I
But
hope
you
so.
see,
I
it
think
is
it's a,
interesting. It is interesting because I have seen more and more, especially, you know, in higher management levels, where their laptops have become
mhm,
irrelevant. You know, I, as an iPad
yeah.
only consultant, I been working with many executives into making their iPads their main device. And I understand that
Hmm.
when you live on the Apple, that's the ecosystem you have. But now, if I can make that device and I can pair it with some, open it, pair it, that's a device that can turn into be my device that I take with me everywhere, and I will be a fold, only device instead of having the computer and all these things. And I've been seeing more and more of that. And if you do that, do you want it to be a Dex? I don't know, because I wonder if the Dex will sound the device as more complex instead of push you towards simplification of the
Yeah,
process.
it's hard to say because I think Dex still struggles to find its footing
Mhm.
in this space. And I have to lean back to another rumor that I heard that didn't happen today, but I have a feeling it's going to happen in the future. And the rumor is that the S9 tablets, which are the next generation of tablets that they're going to be releasing, will include a foldable tablet.
Mhm.
And that to me seems very intriguing because now if you take a foldable tablet, you take something like an S8, which is a fairly decent sized tablet, and you fold it in half and you put a screen on the outside, now you have a tablet that has a screen that's basically the same size as the inside of the fold,
Right.
but it can open up to a full size tablet. That is a perfect tool for productivity. That is what the Microsoft Duo should have been from the beginning. So it'll be very interesting to see
Yes, I
if
agree
this is
with
a
you.
device that comes out. And if it does, that to me is a perfect candidate for Dex because you run Dex on the inside, you run regular Android on the outside. Now you've got best of both worlds, and it's not much bigger than a paperback book. Okay, I can see huge reasons to use that. So we'll see if that's what actually plays out in the next version of the tablets themselves. But
Yeah, that
like I
will
said,
be very powerful. Yes, I agree.
it was a good representation today. It lasted about an hour. Good representation of their next steps. And like I said, this is not a uh, break the champagne bottles on all the new tech type of an announcement and type of structure. This is a, hey, we're continuing to move forward. We're moving forward with the stuff we've got. We've made it better. If you haven't jumped on this stuff, this is a good opportunity to jump on this stuff. If you have, just know that we're still behind it. And that's
And
with
and
these
that's
kinds of devices, you have to worry about that. You have to
mhm.
worry, are they, flash in the pan type of things? But I don't think so. I think the foldable market is just only going to continue to grow, and we're going to eventually see offerings from Google and from Apple in this same space.
I agree, and it is what I like a lot about today event was that Samsung is the impression that I got is Samsung is feeling very confident in that leading position, where
Mhm.
now instead of let me flash you, let me show you how we are maturing our product line. And it's not that they are not doing innovation and they will not do more innovation. It is we don't need to make every of these events of our innovation. We can also show you how we are maturing, how our lines are getting more and more solid.
Yeah. I usually get asked after these types of an event from Samsung, they're like, okay, you're all in on the Samsung ecosystem. I mean, I got more Samsung stuff around me than I know what to do with. The question I usually get is, okay, so what would you go out and buy? Out of all this stuff, where's your money going to go? Looking at this list, the only two things that I would really consider putting my money into right now based on need and based on improvement from existing, what I currently have, would be I
Mhm.
would consider getting the Buds 2 Pro because I think there's enough functionality that's added there with those that it's worthwhile. And I would consider looking at the Z Fold 4 because it is what I consider the logical successor to the Note line of tablets or Note line of phones. I have a Note 20 Ultra. It has served me well since 2020. It will continue to serve me until I get rid of it. But its replacement would be a Note 4 or a Fold 4, rather. So those would be the two I would consider. Would I have any hesitation recommending a Flip 4 to someone? Absolutely not. I would absolutely recommend to people if they're looking for a high end phone or a higher end phone that offers them a unique experience. I'd say, yeah, definitely take a look at that thing. It's different than anything else out there. And you're going to find, except for like the Motorola Razor, which I don't even go into that. This is the type of device that I think, you know what? It's absolutely worth taking a look at. The watch, come on, guys. You can do better than that. So,
Yeah, I yes, I think that can be discussed. Yes.
so that's the Samsung Unpacked event in a nutshell. If anybody else watched it and completely disagrees with me, good. Let me know, please.
Yes, let
Jump
us
into the
know.
comments and reach out to us.
But but again, I think as a closing, it was a very good event, and I wonder if with this maturity that we are seeing with Samsung, it is now going to be we are going to start seeing a gap between Samsung and the rest of the competitors. Well, for Android phones, even on the PC laptops, when you look
Very
HP,
possible.
when you look Dell, where are those laptops? When you look on the phone and the tablet market, even if right now somebody will come to me, okay, and said, I need an Android tablet, okay, my first thing will be call Art, but my second thing will be buy a Samsung, okay, because Art will be able to give you all the details that I can. But right now in my world, it seems to be Apple and Samsung, and everything else. It is I will not
My
recommend.
laptop is a Samsung Galaxy Book, and it's not because I'm a Samsung fanboy. This is the lightest, most powerful configuration at its price point that I've been able to find. It has been reliable, it is consistent, and it works with the other Samsung devices effectively.
Mhm.
I don't have that issue. I don't run into problems like I run into sometimes with Lenovo or HP or Dell or things like that. It just keeps running. It just does a job. So that type of a thing comes into play. But since we're talking about things, I wanted to wrap this up kind of interestingly. Um, there are little things that we decide to get that can make huge changes and improvements in the devices that we have. And this is one of the things that I found fascinating. I got a Samsung Galaxy 8 or Tab 8 tablet.
Right.
Same principle goes for iPad. I have changed the effectiveness and usability of this tablet with one purchase, and it's a different case. It's just the case, the purchase of a case, a $25 case has completely changed how I use this device
Mhm.
because this case does something very simple that, from a design standpoint, they should have done in the first place. It gives me a place to put the pen where it won't fall off. They didn't design it that way. It stands itself up. It has a little pouch in the front. It has a tab on the side. And you think, okay, how important can a case be? I literally have changed how I've used this tablet because of this. And I don't want to say that, you can do the same thing. What I want to say is that don't look down on accessories. Don't look down on things that enhance a large productivity item, like earbuds or like, your
Don't be
phone or your
afraid to test them, because I,
tune
like
it.
you, when my iPad mini, when I got the iPad mini that has a pencil, okay, at that time they were not attached, they were not magnetic, okay, and the first accessory I got was something to put it in the back of the
Yep.
pouch, and then later I got a case from the same brand, Sugu brand, okay, that has the case to protect it with the space on the pen, and because of that, I use my pen more than anything,
Yes.
and like you on the iPad Pro, that's my complaint. Yes, I understand Apple. It is beautiful that it's magnetic in there, but why do I need to go and buy an accessory to protect the pen so I don't lose the pen?
Here's a good example, and this is kind of getting off on a tangent, but we've talked a lot of times about digital ink. We'll be talking about it in the next episode that comes up. My son, who's going back to college in a few weeks, had to get him a new laptop for college. Not a big deal. You kind of expect you have to get a good, decent machine. And I asked him, are you going to, what size do you want to get so you can take it to class and take notes? And he goes, well, I'm not taking it to class. It's staying in the dorm. I'm like, well, how are you going to take notes? He has a Samsung Tab S6 Lite with digital ink and Samsung Notes.
Yeah, that's it.
He's going to handwrite it. He's going to handwrite his notes on the tablet. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's exactly what you should be doing. That's a great way to do it. You can use it, you can review them, you can edit them, you can capture it that way, and you're only carrying one lightweight device around from room to room. That's a terrific way to handle it. And this is how we have to think about it. We've talked so many times about having a device with a purpose. Whether it can do other things or not is secondary.
It's
The fact it
irrelevant.
has a purpose and a job, and that's the job you expect it to do first more than anything else. That's what defines a productive part of your platform. And everyone, if we go back to your technology cards that we've talked about in the past, every device you have, what is its purpose in life? What is its purpose as being part of your system? And if you can
Correct.
identify that and you can be true to it and it does its job with that expectation, well, then, it's a keeper.
You're good.
But if it
It's
can't
a
do
keeper.
that job, it's not worth it.
Correct.
So,
Correct. So with this, we get to the end. Follow us where you like to listen to podcasts, like us or subscribe to us and leave us a review. You can also interact with us in personalproductivity.club. And there's a channel for cross-platform. We're Augusto Pinaud and Art Gelwicks. See you next time. from your favorite device. Thank you.